back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, welcome back. It is another edition of the unofficial 40 podcast brought to you by Soonerscoop.com. And welcome in the entire gang once again. Glad to have him back. It's been a really big week. I really don't know what the hell's going on because my head is spinning. Basically, it's Wednesday. This is how our days have gone. Sunday, we sat around all day just waiting for the Big Ten to cancel. And guess what? It never happened. But there were all kinds of crazy stuff on Twitter and rumors and this and that. So Monday comes. And we sit around and we wait for the Big Ten to cancel. And it just becomes nothing but a we want to play fest from the players. And everyone gets a little bit of hope that maybe the Big Ten's not going to cancel. So Tuesday, we sit around waiting for the Big Ten not to cancel. And what does the Big Ten do? They cancel. And then the Pac-12 cancels. And then it comes up to the Big 12. Do I have my days right? Was it Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday early.
Yes.
All this crap goes down. And then the Big 12 meets Tuesday evening, and we don't really know. We have an inkling that there are some positive things going around, but we're waiting. They still have to get the medical people to come in and talk to the presidents and the board. And the Big 12 essentially says, we're going to allow the season to continue. They didn't say, all right, we're playing football. They said, we're going to allow this to continue going down the path of potentially playing football. So now we have that. Bob Bowlesby has spoke today for an hour. My brain is mush. We still haven't talked to Joe Castiglione or Lincoln Riley. The Sooners aren't practicing. Jalen Redmond got a DUI. Perrion Winfrey hates us.
He deleted the tweet.
Did he delete the tweet? Good. I'm glad he deleted the tweet. Hopefully somebody said.
Likes us again.
We win again.
I think probably somebody got to him and said, "Why are you tweeting that? Don't tweet that." And we didn't do anything to piss him off. We just let it be, which I think was a smart move. We don't always make smart moves, but that was one I thought. So anyway, welcome into the entire crew. That's got you caught up where we are. As the Sooners are still not back at practice. That will happen on the 14th, and then they will get ready to play season. We have a Big 12 schedule also that was released today. Bob's written a story about that, as well as the reaction from Joe Castiglione and Joe Harris, the new university president. So, Josh, first, we welcome in you. You have put in a big crystal ball forecast to try and steal our thunder today.
Yeah, you guys were getting a lot of attention, and I can't abide that. I mean, we need to keep the focus on recruiting at all times.
Well, the focus on you.
Well, you're right. Recruiting makes it sound like I've got a real purpose, but my purpose is me.
You just don't like it when people start talking about watches instead of whiskey, and
So true. That is some boring ass shit talking about that. Whiskey, we have an end result. We're going to get drunk, and that's going to be fun. Watches, we're just going to talk about gears. I don't want to talk about that.
Nobody's talking about gears, all right? Just
we'll
move
you
on.
were. Where
Nobody's
things are made,
gears.
and it's awful.
It's all
exactly.
made in
See, it's not enjoyable.
Josh.
It's
all
bad,
made in Switzerland.
It's terrible radio.
Well, you know what? It's not radio. Eddie Radosevich joins us. He's been slaving away as well, just like I have. Eddie, how are you doing? How are you holding up? Do you feel like a zombie this week?
No, I don't feel too bad. I feel great. I have hope again that there might be a college football season, but at the same time, in the back of my head, I am hopeful, but have low confidence that we're actually going to be able to accomplish the mission. But I'm all in, and I think that the Pac-12 is embarrassing. I think the Big Ten is embarrassing. I think politics are involved, and I'm just happy to be here. Damn happy to be here.
Bob Prisbillo, let's bring you in as well. You have been kind of slaving away, just waiting for people to announce things or people to say things.
That they're going to announce things.
Announce that they're going to. You've been waiting patiently for a schedule, which you now have. And let me just ask you, let's start off there. Your impressions of the new revised Big 12 schedule. Of course, Bedlam they no longer have that 4-game murderers row really to start the Big 12 play, which you kind of knew and expected was going to happen, right?
Well, I mean, unless you look at it, there's still Iowa State, there's still Texas.
They still got beat by Kansas State last year.
You have Kansas State instead of Baylor to open up conference play, and the real big move is clearly Bedlam going from October 24th, November 21st. And then besides just sprinkling in a couple bye weeks, not as big shock. I mean, there's some subtle changes, but if you were hoping that they would play some, doormats to begin the season so that Ramondre Stevenson, Trajan Bridges, Ronnie Perkins, their absence, you wouldn't feel it, that just wasn't the case. That's still a pretty tough way to start the conference slate.
Well, and look, let me start here. The Sooners have they sent everyone home on Sunday, or on Saturday, actually, after they'd practiced in the morning.
That was kind of the start of the timeline, wasn't it, Kerry?
Yeah, I think that's where we start. And you start wondering, you started to hear the rumblings about, that night. And Joe C. was at John Blake's funeral, and it was pretty long. And so I think it took some time for Lincoln and Joe Harris and Joe C. to kind of get around. But I truly think that Oklahoma thought that there was a pretty good shot that they would send the players home and they would be coming back not having a football season to be played, the way things were trending late Saturday night. And, of course, it didn't happen that way.
I mean, they made the reasoning, of course, being, well, camp was July 31st because we're playing August 29th. But now we know we're not playing August 29th, so why don't we give them a break? It made sense in, corporate speak, coach speak, but you had a feeling this is coming out after 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday. That's just not good. That the optics of
it was 10 o'clock when it came out, yeah.
Yeah, it looked terrible moving forward. I
can give you guys a little bit of insight of some things that I've uncovered, and all of the digging that we've had to do to uncover certain things. The injuries have been awful, and we've talked about this. I think we talked about this last week. Had we had the cab thing when we did our pod last week? The coaches' luncheon?
No, that was on Friday.
That was on
Friday.
Friday? See, I don't know.
Yeah.
So you had the cab luncheon, which is the Citizens Advisory Board helps with kids and needy kids in the area. And so we had a bunch of scoopers, and we got them involved and took them to the luncheon virtually. And so that was a really good time. But you notice both Lincoln and Alex Grinch both talking about the mental toll that it was taking on the players, not knowing if they were going to practice the next day because, they had that early game. Everything was moved up, and now it looked like things were going to get moved back because, remember, the Big Ten came out with their schedule, and they moved everything back. And then they ended up canceling, which was, is ridiculous in its own. So, anyway, the players, from what I was told, it was just getting to them. And the injuries that everybody was sustaining, Caleb Kelly going down, their backup quarterback, Tanner Mordecai, getting hurt, Justin Harrington coming right in and getting hurt. And then what's the fourth? Who's the fourth that I'm missing? Marcus Hicks going down with a torn Achilles. And by the way, his dad, Kelvin, put up pictures of him getting the surgery and being done with surgery, so his recovery is fully underway. But all this stuff was going on, and kind of what I heard is they were just having shitty practices, and people were fatigued mentally. And I think they had a big meeting, and a lot of people made it, we thought it was this big Zoom thing. The Zoom stuff was going on, too, with the Pac-12 players and the boycotts and all this stuff. And so everybody thought, it's a Zoom thing and players are revolting and they're not going to practice. I can tell you now, none of that was happening. What was happening was they were having shitty practices. And the coaches were frustrated. The players were frustrated. The injury thing was going around. And so Lincoln Riley, from what I'm told, basically held a meeting and put it to a vote. And he said, look, we're not getting anything out of these practices. And unless we can find some way to come out here and take this seriously, we can't keep doing this. So he let them take a vote on whether or not they wanted to just go ahead and stop practicing for a week and go home and regroup and get better in the head and come back ready to practice. So that's when everybody says, what is he doing? They spend all this money. He's trying to get their heads right. Like this is his effort to kind of give the team something. He knows they've been under a tremendous amount of pressure, and his hope is they go home, don't get DUIs, which happened, and they relax with their families. They come back, they start back into the quarantine, and they're ready to go for the season. And I now that you look at it the way it's played out, that's probably a pretty good approach that he's taken.
They hit the reset button, is what it sounds like. I mean, obviously there's no handbook for how you gotta go through this thing, but all of it is very fascinating to me. And, I think that in a way, just hearing that, my immediate reaction is, God damn, you talk about a coach that gets it or is one with his players. I think that this is probably example 1A now in the Lincoln Riley kind of handbook as far as listening to his players and taking action against, kind of hearing their voices. And I don't know. It's interesting. I guess I'm kind of taken aback a little bit
by what we've just said.
Yeah. I don't know. It seems like that's going to be viewed as, I would think a lot of fans will see it as, well,
there's turmoil.
Don't have any goddamn heart.
I mean, you can say it. There's been a little turmoil in camp. I mean, all these injuries, all this uncertainty. No. It's unprecedented what this team has had to go through so far.
Sure.
I mean, you think Ohio State's going to have good practices moving forward?
I can't imagine what those practices are like right now, knowing that you literally don't have a season in front of you.
Hey, Ryan Day's still hanging on to it.
Oh boy. What's Desmond Howard going to say about Ohio State now? He already trashed Nebraska this morning.
Which is funny considering Michigan State's still hanging around after all the sex scandals that they had up there. And then you had Joe Paterno being a son of a bitch human for 35 years. Penn State's still in the conference up there. But yeah, let's get mad at Nebraska because they want to play football. You, Desmond Howard.
Well, at least Joey hasn't weighed in yet. Maybe Joey and Desmond could get into a fight over this now if he goes after Ohio State. No, but I mean, what a job by the Big Ten to make Nebraska feel like they did when they left the Big 12. Great job, Big Ten. I don't know that the Big 12 was ever that disrespectful to Nebraska.
I mean, and it's just kind of weird. I mean,
the Nebraska hated Texas.
The Nebraska thing, I find like at the surface of it, it's pretty damn funny, isn't it? Like they kind of made their own bed here.
Well, I mean, but if you are them, a proud football program, yes, they suck, but to think that you cannot play football, and Josh and I have talked about this, like cases haven't been that bad in Nebraska.
Oh, not at all.
So,
I've mentioned to you before, like every day Sean Callahan sends up a update for Lincoln County or whatever county it's in. And I've joked before, like the only way Nebraska was going to win a national championship was if nobody else played because they have no COVID cases up there.
So, I mean, you've got an entire fan base. That's all they live for is football. And you're now telling them that they cannot play, just like Ohio State, just like Michigan. Like,
sure.
If the Big 12 watched 3 other conferences play and they weren't one of them, my God.
Oh, I mean,
we would set a world record for F-bombs in a pod.
I think it's ridiculous that they're not even trying. And that opens up into everything that the Big Ten and the Pac-12 have done, just as far as I don't understand how some doctors can tell you one thing, other doctors are telling conferences the other thing. Like somebody tweeted out a picture of a quote from the USC I think it was the president or athletic director, and then a quote from Bob Bowlesby. Those are literally two different worlds. I don't understand how something like that has become so, I just non-transparent almost. I hate to say it, guys, but I feel like politics are big players in this whole thing.
Everything's politics.
My question is, since we live here, how bad is it on the West Coast with COVID?
It's not as bad as it is in Texas. Texas is bigger than California right now in cases.
Is it? Okay. All right.
Well, maybe because of the dirty people in Houston.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
They're just a disgusting breed of people.
You guys are really bad in Houston. I mean, you guys are spiking huge.
It's her. I mean, and the thing is, like, me, I'll take any chance to bag on Houston. You go anywhere in Houston, people are in masks. Like, I mean, they're doing the stuff they're supposed to be doing. I haven't gone anywhere. Maybe one exception. I can think of one restaurant we went to, and like the waiter comes out, and like you can tell he just put his mask on, like because we had ours on, and you're like, yeah, okay, but I mean, you can tell if we wouldn't have had ours on, he'd have been like, it's fine.
Houston, didn't you?
What's that?
You said it was like the Magic City of Houston, didn't you?
What? The Magic City? I don't think I'm following. There's
Oh
a joke
no, Josh doesn't get the reference.
I don't get the.
I don't either. I'll be honest.
Lou.
Lou Williams, Magic City. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nope, lost on me.
That happened like 3 months ago. It seems like chicken wings at the stripper club. Yeah, that seems like it was a lifetime ago.
Okay, now I'm with you. Yeah. No, that is. I mean, from as far as I know, the girls are dancing with their masks on. I mean, I think they're doing their part. So. But no,
we can tell what Eddie has not let go of for sure.
But yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not. I mean, that's what Eddie's here to retain. That's what he brings. But no, like I said, when I go out in Houston, everybody's doing their part. But I mean, there's no question it is a problem in the city right now. But like when I went to Durant for that camp a few months, I guess last month, when I was going through Dallas, people were looking at me like I was crazy when I went in places with a mask on. Like I went into my hotel and they like. One of the people working the desk had one on, one didn't. I mean, it was interesting.
And I don't know what it is about Texas and Oklahoma, but if you go somewhere that tells you that you have to wear a mask, people won't wear masks. They like revolt. We're just built like that for some reason. By the way, has it been surprising to you? Maybe not Eddie, because he's been such a COVID truth or whatever. Has it been surprising to you to see some of the mentions since we broke the story, like people that are fighting over COVID? Like, I didn't realize there were so many people out there who literally think players are going to die if they play football. There are a lot of those people out there.
God. It's one of those things like you hate to weigh in on, because if you end up wrong, somebody's like, yeah, Josh told us before the season we weren't going to, there was no players going to die. But you have to play the numbers. The numbers say that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't, statistically, the numbers aren't there.
And I mean, and to act like it's some certainty, like, oh, you're designating these poor guys for death. Nobody's doing that. Like, if it was anywhere close to that, everybody would be like, nope, we're not for this.
Well, look, if you want to say, why did the Big 12 evaluate, and let's get back to that real quick, because you brought that up, Eddie, why the Pac-12 said no. And you guys know, I had been researching that Patron guy, or Patron, or I can't, Dr. P, who was the University of Utah, medical guy and the Utah Jazz guy, and he was one of the infectious disease experts they were listening to. And I listened to his podcast, and everybody started talking about myocarditis like the last few days, like it was something new and revolutionary that was taking hold of all these ADs and presidents. And all that stuff, it was made out like Bob Bowlesby's really concerned about that. What it came down to was, when I listen to that guy talk, he's like, yeah, that's not really, that's something that's a concern, but if you just do the correct cardiac tests after someone contracts COVID, then you're likely to be fine. And that's why the Big 12 said, we're going to do all these extra steps now to check people's hearts after they've had it, to make sure that they're safe to go back out there and they don't have any kind of myocarditis, or any kind of heart disease that's going to lead to, a sudden death or something like that. The thing in California was, in the infectious disease expert, his concern was that they couldn't test every day, and with the positive test results that they were getting, it was like 9%, and he said that they cannot recommend a contact sport or practices if you can't test every day, so they shut it down. And the Big 12 is going to do 3 tests a week in season to try and cover up for that, and they're going to do the extra heart test. So the Big 12 was just willing to say, okay, we may not be able to test every day, but we still want to do this. And they brought up the thing about, the mental health of the players. How much worse is going through this going to be for players in the Big 10 than in the ACC and the SEC and the Big 12? They may be more at risk, but their lives are going to be considerably better.
Oh, there's no question. And that's a reality, almost regardless of what you're talking about. Every study I've read, obviously I've got Lainey, ready to start first grade, and I've been reading stuff, and, we had to make the decision whether she was going to go back or we were going to do home, the
distance
online learning or whatever. Yeah. And everything you read from any reputable teaching source or, child development or whatever is like, this is a huge detriment to these kids and their socialization and all these things. And I can tell you flat out, from the 2 months they spent at home with me when we were kind of getting our head around all of this, to when they've gone back to school and been around their friends and had time to go play, they're different kids. It's just they're happier, they're more engaged. Not dealing with me for 8 hours a day has got to be good for your health. So there's a lot of it that I feel like at some point people kind of are, the cure is going to be worse than the symptoms. If to use a very obvious comparison or analogy, I guess.
What is it? It's the cure can't be worse than the
disease.
The disease, yeah. I don't know. But I really think that that's a great point. It's not just, people have made a lot of good points. Trevor Lawrence, kind of started out, we need to be here. We're better off here than we are back at home without all these, advantages that we have. But really, I thought the Big 12 the reason that they're doing it is they kind of embrace it's better we're willing to take the risks because it's better for the mental health of our players to be doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is playing football. And we don't think the risk of death is enough to, basically put them through a poor quality of life over the next year.
There's enough stress on these guys right now without having to deal with all of this and no end in sight. They were going through the summer thinking, this is a bunch of bullshit and we hate all this, but at least we get to play ball in August. There's going to be something
there's
that
a light
feels
at the
normal.
end of the tunnel, yeah.
Exactly, something to look forward to. And now, I was talking to a recruit last night, and it was something I hadn't even thought of. And, obviously this is more of the high school side of things. But he was talking about, because he's able to enroll early, and he was having to make the decision of, do I start to turn the gears in that direction, or do I let myself, because, if it had been if your schedule got punted to January, do you go through with that, or do you try and, play that one last season with your buddies and have a, kind of a normal senior year, or at least, you get to play a football season normal in that way? There's just so much to think about at that age, and anything that provides some normalcy has got to be preferred now. And I get that you can't do it at all risk and all cost, but again, man, when you look at these numbers, I'm just not sure that the risk of the disease is worse than a lot of these other things that are kind of starting to stack up.
I mean, now that you've had players go back home and kind of re-examine things, I'm wondering, come Friday or Saturday, if Lincoln announces that so-and-so has decided to opt out. I wonder if anybody's minds have been changed through what's happened with Micah Parsons and Rashad Bateman and all those other top guys who've announced in the last week after OU started camp. I'm not saying there will be. I'm just wondering that now that they've actually had time to sit and think about it, if anyone chooses that they would rather not play this season.
Sadly, I mean, I'll be honest, but sadly, I think somebody, and the perfect example is Micah Parsons. I think he's using COVID as an excuse not to play the football season. Obviously, Penn State wouldn't have to worry about that right now, but I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm kind of f***ed up for thinking that.
No, I mean, it could be, but, you think about it from OU's perspective, it would have to almost be a guy just opting out, not like Parsons, not like, oh, I'm just going to wait to the NFL, because really the only guy you could do that, the only player that could do that right now is Creed. Does anyone see Creed doing that? I don't see that at all. So he's the only, I mean, if Ronnie Perkins didn't have what happened, maybe you could make that case. But even he, I think, would want to play to maybe see if he could sneak into the back end of the first or something. Creed's the only guy that is a definite first or second day pick right now that could probably just say, I'm good, I'm going to walk. But this is a guy that grew up an OU fan. I mean, it matters to him to play.
Well, and my hope is that once the players get back and they start practice, I mean, I think it would be important for Lincoln to make it like a normal camp again. There has been no media. There's been no, chance for people to go out and take pictures or video or anything and I'm not saying we'll be able to, but I mean, get them back into a routine. We want to talk football. We want to be able to talk, to Alex Grinch was fantastic at that luncheon. I mean, it was great to hear him talk, just about his players. And he is a football coach. People just need to hear a little bit of football, and nobody's been able to hear anything except for COVID talk and, quarantine and testing and, presidents and boards and all this stuff. Everyone needs some football. And we need, as a media, we're kind of going through the same thing. The players are. We're going stir crazy because we can't cover a football team. We haven't talked to Lincoln Riley since, July 3rd. Yeah. I mean, it's just been ridiculous. Let's and we know the season is not a guarantee. When the students are getting on campus, and they're doing that right now, we don't know how this is going to go. We don't know if there's going to be a bigger spread throughout the team. But my God, we've got to start moving in that direction of playing a football season at some point.
I just don't know if we'll ever get to that point. And I hate saying that, but I don't know if, do you almost have to go about this quote-unquote preseason camp in a way that you never have before? Because there is nothing normal about it.
Yeah, I just fear when you start changing that up, that's when injuries start happening too. If you're not 100% focused and not in your routine like you usually are, that throws off everything. And I admit, I feel like I can finally ask football questions now. Even when they started camp, it felt weird to ask, how's the defensive tackles looking, and try and replace all those guys. It still didn't seem right. But at this point, now that the Big 12 has made its rulings and all that, now that all the dominoes have fallen the way that they were going to, okay, it's time to stop asking about COVID and start asking actually about the team and about the season.
I'm particularly interested, too, to once you got the freshmen on campus, they've moved in, kids are going to start showing back up for school. As you start working your way towards the first day of classes, it's going to be interesting to see what the tone of the players is, I guess, in a way, just for the fact that I don't think people realize, and the players they've tweeted things and said that they wanted to play and stuff like that, but when you realize the gravity of the situation and the amount of sacrifice that you're going to make and the things that they just simply can't do this semester if they want to have a football season. It's going to be interesting to see kind of what it is like. I kind of liken it to a little bit of what Lorenzo Cain went through with the Milwaukee Brewers. He tried out the season, decided that, it's not for him and his family. And then he made the decision after, I think they were like 10 or 11 games in.
Yeah.
He probably saw the standings too and realized he's playing in the same division as the best team in baseball. But at the same time, like, I'm particularly interested to see, like, when they realize, like, shit, I can't go over to, Logie's or Seven or wherever and have a drink on a Thursday night. I can't do that. Not to say that they did do that a lot during the season, but I think we all know
the Marlins
lived on a college campus. We know the score there.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, at what point does a team just kind of, I mean, it really is the makeup of a team. Like, can you self-discipline yourself throughout a season? Does it matter that much to you? The problem is going to be if you're playing West Virginia late in the year and you're going to their place, which is what Oklahoma's facing, and they're having a terrible season, how much are their players taking care of themselves or trying to do things the right way? That's what's scary to me. It's not going to be bad week 2, week 3, week 4. It's, when you've had, and that was something else asked of Bob Bowlesby today, like, can you keep doing this? Like, what do you do if the ACC all of a sudden says, yeah, we're done, and then it's just you and the SEC? Is that really football? Like, are you really playing for something at that point?
In my mind,
yes.
I think that those 3 conferences have to stand together on this. Now that their statements are out there, now that they're moving on with playing, it's almost, and it's kind of what Tram asked of Bob Bowlesby. In my mind, they're married together on this decision.
You said yes awfully fast, Josh.
The thing I'm facing about myself, I have a legitimate problem with college football. Like, I have a need that is not healthy or normal, or like the idea that, I mean, like, we were so perilously close to having lost college football in the fall that just, I wouldn't know what to do. Like, Saturdays, I'm going to spend time with my family. That's not what that's for.
Do that in the winter.
That's what we all know. That's what Sundays are for, right?
Yes, that's what I do on Sundays when I'm not calling recruits that have visited the campus. I mean, those 2 or 3 hours I have, sure, the kids can go to the zoo, whatever. But Saturday, no.
We still don't know if recruits will be visiting.
Yes, I mean that's the. I mean, we'll get into some of the recruiting stuff later, but I mean, like I said, I mean, it really did. When you guys broke that news, and I again, not often are we sincere in this pod, but that I was truly proud. Like, I was literally at a playground with the girls. I'm like, holy hell! Like, I was just reading the whole thing, and then wake up. It's not often that things I do on the site impress Tiffany, especially right now with all that's going on in her world. But the Blake Shelton retweet this morning.
Really?
She was impressed by that one. That was. A solid
I was impressed by
flex
that one. I mean, I don't want to say anything against the boys. Love you, Jared. Love you, Nathan. But I'm sorry, Blake Shelton has 20 million followers.
I mean, did we get a retweet even from their own personal accounts?
I kind of made a crack about that, but then I took it down in the morning. I was like, "You're being a dick."
I'm looking, and
Jared
I'm
did
not
tell
afraid
me
to say
today
it.
that he saw it, he loved it, so that made me feel better. So Gabe might be a little jealous. He hasn't said anything about it.
Oh no.
As far as the like, I don't know how they're going to do this going to class. Like, I saw Ross Bjork, that loser ass cheater of Texas A&M, that he basically gave off the idea that they're going to be going in a bubble. They're bubbling up their players. Like, how in the hell is OU going to do this? Believe me, I'm ecstatic that they're even given the opportunity.
But I mean, how they. I mean,
embarrassing what the Big Ten and Pac-12 did. But how are they going to go about this?
Well, you know how they're going to do. I mean, you've read some of the stuff, right, about like what OU is doing. I mean, having classes in the auditoriums, not I think they're going to have plastic dividers between desks and stuff. And then you can't sit, like there's got to be someone missing. And so they'll only have classes, and really, you have to wear a mask everywhere. I mean, I think they can do it. I really do. I guess I'm just not.
Makes it a little bit better.
I mean, if it's not, these, like you see these elementary school pictures in Georgia where they're just crowded in the halls and they have to like shut down the whole school after like 4 days because it just spread throughout the whole school. Like, that's not what OU's doing. They're taking a lot of precautions. And I don't even know. I mean, I know one of the kids that works at our radio station, he's going to school. And, like, he has one class in person, and then he, like, goes back to his car and goes to another class online. So, like, that's kind of how, like, they're doing a lot of stuff online. They're not doing a whole lot of classes in person. So, I mean, I think it can work.
I would see. I'm particularly interested to see what the number is, and I think that Brian Davis put it out there. I think I sent it to the Scoop group text, just as far as the numbers that Texas is expecting in class as opposed to online. I wonder what the Big 12. I mean, I wonder what Oklahoma's is, because I could see that happening at a lot of places where you're basically taking online classes this semester. And honestly, that's the only way in my mind that we can get this thing done.
And you're not going to have, the typical fraternity, sorority kind of stuff that you've had, I'm sure. I mean, I know this triggers you, Eddie.
I will believe it when I see it.
Well, you just have to say you can't go to fraternities if you're a football player.
And I think that's fair, but, I don't know. The responsibility and the sacrifice that these football players are making, again, it's easy to say that it's cool and everything, but, come around a bye week and it's a Thursday night, like, I know how college kids operate, but I'm cheering for them. I'm 100% cheering for them. Like, it's just, I guess, stressful, and I shouldn't even be stressed out about it.
And that's why there's so much emphasis on a bubble, because even if you're self-disciplined and you're doing everything right, what about that classmate that, even though there's a divider and there's a mask, what if that person had a bad weekend and all of a sudden is goofing off about everything? And no matter what you did, it was out of your control, and something bad happens. I mean, I don't know. That's just something we're going to have to find out.
Or what if you run into Grimlock on campus and he's just up in your grill trying to get info from you?
I don't think he'd do that.
He's got the COVID.
He'd at least give him a joint or something and then let him get this.
I mean, there's a long way for us to go before we have football. And, I mean, the fan part of it, I thought that was interesting. Bob Bowlesby basically leaving it up to individual schools and states to determine what they're going to do from a fan standpoint. I think Oklahoma is still in that 25% range. But I also kind of wonder, like for the Missouri State game, do they just not have fans? Do they just try and get a game in without worrying about all that stuff?
I feel like I've just been shitting all over this idea, but again, you only have 6 opportunities to get fans in the stands.
Yeah.
I don't think that they're going to turn that down.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
I hate what I'm about to say, and I might just open my window and jump out after I say it, but I kind of agree with somebody like a Dan Wolken. The Masters isn't even having patrons. How the hell do we expect to get fans into the stands down on college campus?
No, I'm there. I mean, and that's got to be something else that's got to be really weird for the players. That just kind of wears on you. Like, okay, we're playing. Nobody's here.
Sure, and on top of that, the band situation is going to be. It's just going to be completely different, and even all the way down to no tailgating on campus. I know OSU's already. I mean, David Warren eliminated tailgating on campus years ago, but in Stillwater, there's going to be no tailgating.
Yeah, you won't be able to go sit there Friday with your spot, I'm sure, by the time this is all figured out. But I mean,
unless the virus disappears after the election, which there's a chance that could happen.
Stop it! I cannot stand people that say that. I mean,
anything can happen.
You just need to wear a tinfoil hat if you're going to say that. All right.
I know. I'm kidding. Well, make sure you're wearing a mask with the tinfoil cap.
Yes.
Guys, this is a first for me. I'm gonna go ahead and recommend a week-long suspension for Eddie Radosevich for agreeing with a Dan Wolken take. That feels like some time, like penalty box time. Like
I hate myself for even admitting it.
I think at least we're finally.
I thought about just bringing it up as my own idea.
I think at least we're finally past the blame the media phase of. Well, I don't know what we call this. It's not realignment. It's COVID football, I guess. Because that whole, I mean, Joe Klatt must have lost his damn mind. I don't know what he was doing, trying to throw that. Like, he was just so obviously pandering. That's the only way I can explain it, going after people in the media. I mean, we joke about Dan Wolken all the time, but for the most part, I think most guys, Dennis Dodd's dodgy. That's a good way to put it. But I don't think like Andy Staples was out there being a jerk, or Pete Thamel was just kind of reporting. By the way, I know we've gotten into discussion on the board about this, but is Pete Thamel, like, where does he rate now for National College Football info guys? I think he's done a damn fine job this year.
I mean, I certainly think that, like, between him and Max Olson's done a great job with the Athletic, with the Big 12 stuff. So has Nicole Auerbach, they've kind of tag teamed that stuff. Like, I think we're only mean to the national writers that are just dumbasses.
But I think they all get lumped in together, which I think is unfortunate.
Messages on the air on ESPN.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot. I mean, like, it's more fun to make fun of the dumbasses than it is to give credit to the shitty one or to the great ones. And there's a lot of great ones out there. I mean, Max Olson's a guy I've known for a long time. Max does a great job.
Super nice guy too.
Yeah, and a great dude. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And Kerry, a guy that you and I, used to be in George Schroeder was a great. I mean, I know he's kind of going through flux right now, what he's doing, but George is a great guy for a long time and did a nice job. So, I mean, there's plenty of guys out there that are guys and women that do great work, but it's definitely more fun to make fun of the
I never got the whole
people.
It was pretty obvious. You got into this deal where some national writers were attacking other national writers, or not even writers, but attacking ADs that were being used as anonymous sources. Like, why are you guys wasting your time fighting about that stuff? ADs can't put their names on stuff. And it just has to be with a writer that's well known enough to where he's not making that shit up.
Yeah, I think that a lot of it too. Honestly, Kerry, I think a lot of the inner fighting was just because there ain't shit else to talk about, and people are stressed out, and there's just not a whole lot to go off of. And especially, when I don't know, when to an extent, when you've been attacked all day, I think people have just kind of at their wits' end, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of attacking. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of.
Yeah.
I hate to say this, but when you have the president of the United States who has brought so many people to Twitter that were not there before, because where does everyone go to hear from the president? They go to Twitter because he's always on it and he's always talking on it, and it's brought this. I think it's very noticeable to me that it's brought this whole different demographic of user to Twitter. And some of them
for years.
Some of them like sports. I mean, this is kind of what's happened to Facebook. It's like it got washed with all these people that just kind of ruined it. And I don't know that anybody's ruining Twitter, but it's a much more caustic environment than it was pre-Trump.
Social media has ruined everything. Social media has ruined me. It's ruined all of us.
I would say it's made you who you are, actually.
I know, and that's the bad thing.
And I hate myself.
Yeah, that's the worst thing about it. I'm a product of my own something. I don't even know how to put it.
I really want to hear you finish that sentence. Of your own ego?
Probably, yeah. It's just it. There is no like right answer though, as far as how this. I don't know.
I'll tell you one thing.
This whole thing being handled. I don't.
You guys can admit this. I think this is probably something that the one thing social media and the pandemic has done. I think I've probably been on the message boards more in the last 3 months, maybe than I have in the last year. It's like drove me back to the message boards.
It's a good thing then.
Well, except for all the people I'm banning because I'm there all the time. I do find that I didn't realize this because I wasn't a big banner, Josh. But when you ban people, they generally say, "Yeah, I know, I deserved it."
Most people are like, yeah, and that's why I'm usually like, okay, long as we get where we went wrong here, we can, this doesn't have to be heavy-handed.
Yeah.
Like, no problem. It's just hey, I need you to stop doing what you're doing for a second.
And it just gives you a second to talk to someone. And
exactly.
And people, once you ban them, they stop being douches for effect. It's like, it was a Sooner Meat Schooner. I banned him for like a month. After a few days, he contacted me. He's like, yeah, I deserved everything. I was being a dick. I was like, okay, well, you can admit that. I'll take your ban off. And I took his ban off. And so he ended up being banned like 3 days instead of a month for just being a human.
Yeah. No, it's like, I mean, because when you get down to it, it's two people talking. Like, even if we're messaging, whatever, just two people conversing. Very rarely is it that confrontational. Now, I do have a couple of guys. I've got a guy that I banned probably 3 years ago on the free board that will just occasionally send me a message, and it's like, F you, Josh. You asshole, Josh. Like, that's all it is.
Yeah, I have
just
that
get a random one every once in a while.
See, the thing is, I have that too, but then I have you. You will go in and ban them from being able to private message me anymore. But there's definitely a couple of guys that just, every couple of months, they just come back and they'd be like, you're still a cocksucker.
As we have talked about forever, like, this reputation that you have is like you're the one that'll, like, no, I will burn you down. Like, I will run you out of town. Like, I don't care. Like, act like a reasonable human being. Even if we disagree, that's okay. But, like, be a human, and we can probably work that out.
My biggest problem is that I'm just not a grudge holder.
Oh, cross me and I'm done with you. I will finish it.
I hate myself about that. I hate myself for that, but I just can't hold a grudge. I just don't give a shit enough to dislike
why would you hate yourself about? Is that a good quality to just move on?
I think what I'm saying is I feel like I'm a little gullible because of that. Like, I should be a bigger grudge holder than I am.
You're a super nice guy. People don't think that about you, but I promise it's true.
Everyone thinks I'm an asshole.
I know. And I know it's not true. Like, you're one of the people I work, like, you want to talk about my kids and stuff. I'm like, you don't really want to hear this, do you? And you do. You love that shit. Like, and
like
it's fun. That's
kids.
great.
They're awesome.
It's a great quality. There's nothing wrong with it.
Now, I don't like it when, little kids, are messing with the pod. Bob knows that.
Or, I mean, or Layla's messing with the audio outputs here. This is the worst thing. Like, this house we're in right now, everything's so compressed. So she comes and sits at my desk. Yes, and she comes and gets at my desk. And right now, she's really only interested in my keyboard, so that's kind of okay. But I'm like, just leave the audio shit alone. I don't want to figure that out. It's okay. Leave it be. But I live in fear that she's turning the knobs while I'm not looking. You
know what? Uncle Kerry won't just kill you. He'll kill me.
He will find us all.
Well, we need to talk about your Josh is going through some changes. And this is going to reveal something about Josh that people may not know. Josh, what is it they say about people that you have a...
sex changes.
No.
Transgender.
About, champagne and caviar on a, something
Oh,
budget.
yeah, champagne taste on a beer budget.
Yeah.
Absolutely true.
You absolutely have, you don't have a beer budget. You have more than that, thanks to your wife.
Yes.
But Josh likes the finer things in life. And he's been having laptop troubles. And so I knew where this was going to go. And I said, Josh, and he knows I'm a cheapskate. I said, Josh, I know you're going to want a new MacBook Pro, but those are really, really expensive. So here's what I'll do. I'll give you a budget. You can spend this much, but I know you, and you're going to want the Super Mac Daddy MacBook Pro, so you have to pay for the extra. And so I told Josh, like, you could get a 13-inch for the amount that I'm giving you. And, of course, he goes straight to the 16 inches. They're like minimum $2,000 just for the entry level because they're Macs.
Yes.
So Josh decides, you know what? I want a whole lot of computer, and I'm gonna spend more than you're giving me, but I'm gonna go to a PC because I can get a whole lot more. And so Josh literally turns into a PC laptop expert. I mean, do you remember Computer Shoppers, Josh?
Computer Shoppers.
It used to be like these gigantic magazines that you get. It was for people that built computers.
Yeah.
They were on every newsstand.
Sure.
I had a buddy. We would just buy that and flip through it and try and build our computers. But like that's what I pictured you doing. Is just researching every site. And you were like, well, this one has these reviews and this one has these reviews. So Josh, like, Eddie, the computers that I buy you, they're really nice. They're fast.
Yeah.
We kind of treat them like they're disposable because they only last a few years and then they burn up because they have so much shit inside of them to run fast. But I was like, okay, Josh, this is what you need. The most you ever do is edit pictures. So you need 16 gigs of RAM maximum. You don't need like the NVIDIA RTX 2000 series video card. You don't need 3 terabyte SSD NVMe hard drive. Like you don't need all that. This is what
now
you
you're
need.
just flexing about your knowledge of laptops.
The nerds
He's
are
nerdy.
loving this segment right now.
Yeah,
trust me.
There's a
Everybody else
nerd
is
with his
fast
pants
forward.
off right now.
Actually, there's a nerd going, there is not a 3 terabyte NVMe
There he
SSD. That
called
doesn't
himself
exist. So Josh comes back, and I'm like, this is the one you should get, Josh. Get this one. It's in the budget. We'll pay for everything. And what does Josh do? He comes back with one that's $1,000 more than the one I'm recommending that is like a supercomputer that, Eddie, you don't even need that much power in your computer, but Josh has to have it.
Yes.
When you put in 5-star forecast, you got to have a lot of power.
You need a.
Do you think these buttons just click themselves?
You need a Chromebook to do what Josh does. Seriously, those are like $3.99.
That's just hurtful. We're looking at buying my first grader one of those.
Man, all Josh needs is something that can actually work his talk-to-text thing.
Oh God.
Oh.
See, that's what's bizarre now. You have you not only have an Android, and you won't get an iPhone, so you make us all look poor with our green group texts. So and now you have a PC instead of a Mac.
See, now here's the thing.
You really
you
don't
are
know
this
anything about
Apple
computers.
warrior but this is the other thing. On the other side of it, your hatred of Apple computers and all their hype.
I have a
and
Mac.
Yet you're like iPhone.
I have a
iPhone,
MacBook
iPhone.
Pro. I have an iPad. I have an iPhone. But I also have PCs for everything else.
I know. But you literally, when I told you I was going to go PC in our little private message, you were like, so you realize that Apple's just a bunch of hype. Like you were so excited.
No, I just wanted you to
dunk
see
on Apple.
if you compared an Apple MacBook Pro and its specs to a PC, you could get so much more for a PC, and it like blew your mind. And then you decided, oh, not only do I want as much as that Mac, I want to double up and get even more.
Bam. Exactly.
Like no matter what,
there's
you
no
were going to
question.
spend $2,000. No matter what.
Yeah. Well, because the MacBook Pro, I would have, like, I've literally never ordered one stock. Like, I always add stuff to it. Because, like, every time I would take it into the Apple store, they're like, this is a bad, I'm like, I know, dude, I do all kinds of, like, I always add stuff that
I do all kinds
I
of
end up
stuff.
probably not needing.
I'm the
do.
biggest
I'm
power
like, yeah, I
user
want
you've
that.
ever met.
I want that. Oh, dude, I can't even, like, my laptops are like desktops for the power drain that I'm
Eddie,
sure they
I have
are.
never appreciated
So-
you more because you just let me buy you stuff and you use it. You don't ever argue. You just
I'm
say,
very simple.
maybe can I get a backpack? I'm like, yeah, here's a backpack. Can I get an extra battery or charger? Here you go.
The problem here was I am caught between my work wife, Carrie, and my real wife, Tiffany. Tiffany will stab you in the eye if you have something bad to say about Apple. I'm just going to – that is a Apple – not just a loyalist, but a militant loyalist. Like she
Tiffany
does
is not allowed to say
around
anything bad about me because I have her lunchbox that she wants really bad.
Oh, that's true. You do have that over her head. She would
Rescuers.
like that. But it's not that, like, part of it for her is, like, so she had a Mac in college that lasted kind of like yours, like 10 or 12 years. So she kind of still has it in her head that every Mac lasts that long. And I finally, like, during all this stuff I was reading, I kept looking. I was like, man, this crapped out faster than some of the other ones I've had. And I started reading, like, yeah, Apple's not using some of the same, the quality isn't as good as it used to be. They're kind of falling apart. Well, I send her something. She's like, oh, yeah, that's from IHateApple.com. I'm like, calm down. You've just lost your mind. Like, she's so defensive about Apple. And part of it is I shit on her iPhone all the time. Because, like, she'll be like, what's wrong with it? I'm like, it's an Apple. That's what's wrong with it. But at the same time, with a computer, I'm like, I love that Apple. So I want everyone to bear with me a little bit because it is like the board chat took me twice as long as it should have yesterday because like the control keys are different, copy, paste, everything I can just do on an Apple without even thinking about it. I just know where the keys are and I know all the commands. I'm having to relearn it and I keep typing or I'll run my finger across the keypad or the mouse pad. So it's just everything's always a problem. So just bear with me as I figure this shit out.
God. Really?
Yeah.
I don't even know what that means. What do you mean the commands are different?
Like
Copy
you have
and paste?
control, like Control C and Control V. Where on a Mac it's like Option C, Option V.
No, I mean the commands are the same. The keys are in different places. So like as to where I'm used to going, like basically where my Alt key is. I have to shift it's just different. Like I keep hitting the wrong key and it makes the computer do something I didn't want it to do.
God, you thought
and
I was
swear to God, just about
killing
every
this
time it's
podcast
deleting
today.
everything. Yeah. Hey, you wanted to talk this topic.
I didn't want to talk about
PC
command control keys.
I'm asking for sympathy here. Damn it.
This is Josh's COVID. This is his therapy time now. I'm surprised this hasn't happened. I'm surprised this hasn't happened before me. Like you haven't had much high school to go cover. You've been stuck inside with 3 women.
Oh.
I mean, I'm sure
that's a real thing.
Well, 4 when
You
Linda's
guys realize
there.
how much I enjoyed that trip to Durant? I love my family. I do. But it does, like, there is something to be said. And, Bob's a better man than me and probably just better trained than I am to not say these kind of things. But you need to miss your family sometimes. You need that time to, boy, I miss them. I haven't seen them in a while. You need that. And I haven't had that in 6 months.
Eddie, just label the rundown in this part Josh's airing of grievances.
Hey, and for the second straight year, Tiffany and I are not taking an anniversary trip because of last year was selling a house. This year it's because of COVID. So we haven't literally taken a trip by ourselves in like 2.5 years now. It's not great. It's a sad existence.
Are you done?
No, I mean we can talk about babysitter finding. I mean we can talk about whatever you guys want.
Wait, did you?
I mean,
did I hear that you're like testing out like 6 or 7 different babysitters or something, or was that another friend of mine?
No, that was me. So we've had one babysitter for a long ass time. I'll really try to keep this brief. We've had one babysitter for a really long time, but now she has a grandkid, and so she's kind of caught, like a lot of times we'll want to go do something, and we literally can't if she has any plans. So we're like, okay, it's finally time. We need to go find another babysitter. And Tiffany put something up on our next door in our neighborhood. Well, like 17 people reply. And 'cause the first one, we're like, okay, great, we'll go out to dinner this night, and then we'll go out to dinner the next night, and then it ended up being like 7 people. We're like, okay, we'll get back to you when we need someone, because we don't go out that often. So it was definitely trying, but we've gone through 2. One of them helped Lainey and Layla catch frogs and lizards last night. Layla might have killed a frog. She's a little rough with the reptiles. Yeah, it's not great.
Doesn't sound like an activity a hot babysitter would have your kids doing.
No,
just an observation.
That was Eddie. That was a that was a high school cheerleader. I'm just gonna say that. So
yeah, Eddie, haven't you seen?
It surprised me.
They have those hot chick noodlers on Instagram and stuff, and like those like hunter chicks and stuff. It's a strange world we're living in. No, they do. I'll find it for you.
I mean, they're there.
Cheddar
I don't
will
know
have it.
as Eddie would get to talking to them if they would really be his speed. But they're there. They exist.
He's looking right now, like I am.
Oh
no, I'm just contemplating.
When Tiffany and I met, she was literally trying to start a noodling team amongst guys she knew, because Tiffany's from the sticks. So she thought that was going to be a lot of fun. She didn't want to noodle. I want to be clear about that. Tiffany would never do that. But she thought she could find enough country dudes that would noodle. And I don't know what the end goal was. Like, I don't know what the team was going to accomplish, but that was something. And like, I remember her talking to me about it. I was like, no, I don't do that. That's crazy stuff.
I'm going to tell you what, you do hot girls fishing, a lot of good images out there on the Google.
Just don't do hot girls glory hole or something like that,
Is this where Carrie's going to get back into a Chicago Sunroof?
That was the
sunroof.
That was the Better Call Saul, yeah, Chicago Sunroof. Or was it the Chicago Squat Cobbler? No, that's a.
Oh God, I've done it.
Before we get into the recruiting side of the podcast, let me just say real quick, welcome back everybody that has basically just fast forwarded through the last 10 minutes of the show.
And as the star of the last 10 minutes, it's completely reasonable.
There are definitely some reviews on iTunes that tout Josh's dad talk that really enjoy it.
You have to. I don't understand that. It's part of us.
I mean, there's certainly dads out there that are going to relate to some of that stuff, but the general population, if you don't have children, I don't know how you would want to listen to it at all.
Well, so college football coming back. High school football never left, at least in the state of Oklahoma. I know Bob and all you guys. I mean, the OSSAA I know Joe Bettner from the Northern Transcript was out kind of monitoring their meeting yesterday. But it sounds like
morning.
Was it this morning? Wow.
Yeah.
All the days are running together. But basically, it's kind of been par for the course with the OSSAA, right? That they've just kind of not changed anything and not really interfered, I guess you could say, right?
Well, the only thing that's kind of changed, some schools are going to close practices either by choice or by district mandate. So that's a little different. But yeah, I mean, starting next week, there are scrimmages. There will be real live scrimmages. There's a really good one up in Jenks that we'll probably get up to. And it's going to feel like business as normal for us. As much as we haven't had much to do on that front during the last 3-4 months, it's about to kick up in a huge way. And it's going to be a lot of fun to see these kids and to see if they've got that same mindset of it's back to normal, or are they still hesitant? Are they still wondering whether or not their season's going to be canceled? Because if it's happening at a college level, for sure it's happening at a high school level too. But it's definitely going to be a lot of fun to finally get back out there.
Well, and you guys can talk a little bit about what's going on this week and kind of what's the plan moving forward. I know a lot of schools in Oklahoma City are, like you said, getting into action scrimmages happening, but what's kind of just a general plan, just course of action.
The one thing I want to do before we really hit scrimmages and the games themselves, just catch up with the 2021 in-state commits. And want to go to Choctaw, see what's up with Jordan Mukes, and go to Weatherford, check in with Ethan Downs. I mean, these are, Downs, he's been committed since last October, so it'd be great to sort of get his thoughts on what this class is becoming with Caleb Williams, Mario Williams. When he was committed, it was just him and Cody Jackson. That's it. And you just had the belief that, this class is eventually going to take off. And now that he's sort of getting to see it, what his opinion is of the way that things are rolling there. And with Mukes, I mean, again, he's one of those COVID commitments, really, because they didn't get to watch him during track and get to evaluate him during a spring practice. But just, did he realize at the time how important that junior day visit was going to end up being? And just, has COVID really affected him that much? Or, did he know from the from the jump that he wants to be a Sooner? And so once that offer happened, it didn't matter that he couldn't visit any other schools. He knew he wanted to be with OU, so he was set.
Josh, for you, I know you're probably going to spend some time up here just because of what's going on in Texas, but what's your plan? What are you looking forward to?
Sure. I mean, for those that don't follow, I kind of start from a Texas side of things. Is with Texas, what they've decided to do is push back 6A and 5A into kind of October, November. They're going to be delayed by about a month, basically, from start of practices to moving forward, all that kind of stuff. So, and then they're going to have 4A and below are going to operate as normal, and as are the private schools. So with the private schools, you've got guys like Emeka Megwa, Christian Driver, Cullen Montgomery, obviously the Oklahoma commitment here in the Houston area. And then from 4A and below, I mean, it's very few guys, but you're looking at guys like Brennan Thompson, the big-time speedster from 2022, that's way up in the panhandle by Jalen Conyers' hometown. So you are looking at some options and some things to do, but you're absolutely right. As good as Oklahoma looks to be in 2022 and 2023, that first month, I will probably be up there a lot. Like I know, Bob mentioned going by Choctaw. They're going to scrimmage with Mustang. We've got some other stuff going on. But I mean, even once you get into the season, like the Choctaw is supposed to open the season with Booker T. I mean, you talk about, Gentry Williams, Miles, not Miles. Miles Tees. I keep wanting to do Micah. Micah.
Yeah, Miles played at OU already. Yeah.
Their names are too close. It's going to mess me up. But and then you look at Choctaw's side of things with Jordan Mukes, and then you go some of their younger players like R.J. Jackson, Steele Wassel, Chase Jackson, the TCU commitment for wide receiver. I mean, there's just a lot of talent on that field, and you like I said, you just look around the state. And there's going to be a lot of opportunities to see some really good early games and see a lot of young talent that, whether they currently have Oklahoma offers or are going to be working toward them, there are a lot of big-time guys around the state. So there are years when it would be tough to fill our time with just Oklahoma, but I think in this particular scenario, it actually works out pretty well for us that we can catch a lot of that Oklahoma talent while we get used to what's going on in Texas.
So just to recap, like Texas, I mean, I know a lot of places have kind of pushed back to October, but is that mainly in the Houston area because of what's been going on there? I mean, Dallas, are they pushed back as well?
Yeah, it is statewide. Yep. That's a UIL thing that they did. Basically, their version of the OSSAA is that all 6A and 5A got delayed. And that way, I think more than anything, they were trying to – I think they were probably looking down the road into like the playoffs where you have venues that are hosting multiple games, namely, Jerry World, you get into the Star there over in the northeast side of the city. So there were a lot of things that were going to bring a lot of people together. And I think with this idea, they thought they could minimize that a little bit. And also, like they said, in these, 4A, A2, 3A, 4A, you're not talking about these huge gatherings of people. When Allen plays, Mesquite or somebody like that, like that's maybe 10, 15,000 people in the same place. So you've got to think about some of those things, and I think that's what went into it. But, yeah, it is a statewide deal. I've been impressed with how Texas has handled it. They've had very strict rules, very clear ideas of what they want to do. So I think it'll be fine going down the road. And like I said, with the private schools also being available, there's not only – I mentioned some of those guys, but also like Braxton Myers at John Paul III, Terrence Brooks, another guy with an offer. So there are a lot of guys for me to go see. Now, I'll have to go to Dallas to see a lot of these guys, but at the end of the day, we should be able to stay very busy through the next month because of all that's in Oklahoma. And like I said, Texas has enough going to really keep everything busy as well.
Yeah, if I remember right, I think they will start 5A, 6A the same weekend the Big 12 conference play will start. I think it's the September 24th weekend. So that's when things will really start to ramp up. And then, of course, the funny thing is if the Big 12, as we announced today, if that championship goes to December 19th instead of December 12th, then that means they need to find a new venue because Jerry World will be booked up with all high school stuff. So that's something that's, you kind of laugh at the conference if that ends up happening. I know they mentioned before maybe moving to Globe Life Park, but that if it goes to the 19th, I don't think it'll be played at Jerry World.
They're going to the Cotton Bowl.
That is both the most Big 12 thing of all time and the most Texas high school football thing of all time. It's like a daily double almost.
I can't even imagine what a Big 12 championship game would look like.
At the house that Bob built?
Yeah, I mean, just the people in the stands, how many there'd be. It would just be odd.
Yeah, it would be really weird.
It just looked like a whole bunch of people forgot to show up or didn't buy tickets.
Yeah. So
it
looked like a first-round Big 12 tournament game.
And you couldn't have it at the Star because there's just not enough seating to get a lot of people in there. I guess you could. I don't think they have football games at the Toyota Center.
I want to get to September 12th before we get to December 19th.
By the way, you mentioned dates. 10 days from now, right? Kelvin Gilliam announcing.
That is correct.
Indeed.
And I actually spoke with him for about 15 minutes on Friday, and with all the computer turnover, I got it kind of transcribed. No, literally, I was transcribing on the old Mac, and I got halfway through it. It crapped out, and when I rebooted it, I couldn't find the file. It didn't save, so I had to redo it again. But no big deal. I'll get it done hopefully tonight. But he continues to sound really positive. I liked, from an OU perspective, what he had to say about his relationship with Calvin Thibodeau. Really still continues to go back to that virtual visit. He was really one of the first guys OU hit, and it still really resonates with him. Just how they showed him everything, how they really presented a very clear idea of, how they're going to use him, how he could fit in on the campus, not just as a player, but just how they thought he would fit into their whole, just their team ideal. So I still think that Oklahoma's in good shape there. I want to say I think there's about 15 predictions for him on Rivals right now. I want to say 91% have him headed to Oklahoma on the forecast. So it still seems very good for OU, but Penn State's there. I've heard from no one that this is a done deal. Penn State is absolutely still pushing for him, but he and I talked about it. He's pretty open that it's really down to those two. I mean, he's still looking at South Carolina and a few others, but if it's not OU or Penn State, it would be a huge upset.
They were shooting, I think they were shooting his commitment video, like he's already got it in the can or whatever, or maybe they were just doing an element from it. And I'm not afraid to say this because I know somebody even posted it. We noticed it, Eddie and I noticed it when they did like a little behind-the-scenes thing. And it was kind of interesting because if the camera pans to the left, and he's got all these letters and stuff sitting on this picnic table, who knows what they were doing, but it was just strange because they panned to the left and sitting on a chair was the very noticeable deal that OU has been sending out that has like the necklace and the ring, like the really involved fold out that they've been. I think that was for offers, right? Official offers.
Yes. Yep.
But you noticed it sitting right there by it. So I think it was maybe sitting on top of like a Kentucky thing or something like that. So maybe that takes away from it. But a lot of people noticed that was an OU thing just sitting by itself away from this giant pile of just crap.
You've heard of hat science. This is video science.
Yeah, this is
we're getting more
behind the scenes BTS science.
That's the best.
Josh, you think having Damon Harmon, high school teammate, does that mean a lot, or would that just be a coincidence?
No, I think it's meaningful. I mean, this is not, and we always kind of joke around and laugh about the situations where, these guys are teammates and everybody's like, oh, well, that just means they're going to go play together. That's not usually the way that plays. But in their case, they are clearly good friends. And it's interesting because Kelvin was kind of saying, like, Caleb Williams has been working with me for a long time, but this was the first time that I've really sat and, Damon has started to be kind of in on it with him. And that's a lot for a guy to kind of juggle, but I definitely get the impression that makes it more appealing for him. Yet another guy that he knows that he's comfortable with that would be there with him.
Before he announces, we actually have one coming up Saturday. Now, this is going to be a little bit weird. I thought Kyrie Jackson might have been a silent commit 2-3 months ago when he said he was going to announce July 11th. But then when he pushed it back to August 15th, it's felt like Bama has surged ahead. Should OU fans even care about Saturday?
I would say Oklahoma might have a 10% chance. I don't think it's a good chance, but what I will note is what I keep hearing from Alabama people. Like, there's usually with Alabama in a situation like this, you start hearing like, okay, he's let them know, or they're in good shape. They feel really confident. I keep getting questions of kind of what's Oklahoma heard? Well, what's going on with the Oklahoma side of things? Like, there's not that confidence where they know what's going to happen here. But you're talking about a Southeast kid who's playing, football at Scuba, and there's all that connection. I get why people assume that, and I pretty much do too. But there's enough out there that makes me wonder if maybe he's going to shock everybody. I don't know if it'd be Oklahoma, but he's playing a pretty good game of poker is the way I would say it. I don't think anybody's able to definitely know what he's up to.
Anything else you wanted to hit on, Bob?
We got to talk the future cast. We got to talk the 5-star future cast. You teased it. It's time.
Did that happen? I totally forgot about that. I mean, Kerry clearly didn't. Bitter about it at the top of the show. Stole some of his thunder. I get it. But but no, this really, and I guess I should start from the start. This morning I put in a forecast for Kamar Wheaton, the 5-star running back from Garland Lakeview Centennial, to pick Oklahoma. I have gone back and forth for a while on that about basically why I haven't done it already. It was something that I kind of felt like was happening, was moving in that direction, and I just I never got anything definite and nothing that I would say that's what I'm going to hang my hat on. And I honestly would say I still don't have anything that's definite, but part of that is Kamar. He's just so quiet that I don't think you're ever going to get that, that moment where you're like, okay, now I know that the story's written. Because he's not like there's a lot of guys that I can tell are cagey with me, but when they talk to coaches, they're very open and they give an idea of where things are. When I talk to the sources, I don't get that feeling about Kamar Wheaton. I think he is always very close to the vest. He's a guy that's got a very small circle, doesn't trust a lot of people, and so it's hard to gauge where he's at. A big part of this started last night when I started to hear news, and I know a couple of people on 24/7 started to put out their crystal balls for L.J. Johnson, the running back from Cy-Fair in North Houston, to Texas. Well, he'd been pegged for A&M for a long time, but if he were to end up at Texas, I don't see any way that he and Kamar Wheaton are in the same class at Texas. I don't believe that. It's not that they have a beef. This isn't a Oh, what was the whole last year
Zach.
with Jace McClellan and there was that whole beef where that was never going to work. This isn't like that, but I don't think Texas can really pull that off. I'll just be honest. I don't see any way that they can make that work, and I don't really know that Oklahoma or anybody else could either. But with what Texas has going on and all the questions and everything right now, I don't believe that. Well, if LJ Johnson is going to go to Texas, and everybody that I talk to is like, man, they've really pushed hard for him over the last few weeks, it starts to put in perspective some of the stuff we've seen. And I may have misread some of it, thinking that a lot of the push they were making publicly, the whole Brian Carrington tweet thread where he's talking about Stan Drayton and all their running back success, and I thought it was aimed at Wheaton. It may have been aimed at Johnson, and if so, why is it aimed at Johnson? That makes you think maybe they are starting to see the writing on the wall. Exactly. And so I was like, okay, it was basically enough of the dots make sense to me that I think, okay, this is what he's going to do, because it's felt like OU or Texas for about a month now for Wheaton. And if Texas is going to go in the direction of Johnson, then, maybe that makes sense. And the people I talked to with the Johnson rumors, I trust those guys. So it makes sense to me. So we'll see what happens. But I definitely think Oklahoma leads there. I think they have for a while. And I think Texas, like I said, it's hard to know what was reality and what was kind of a smokescreen. But Texas was engaged there for a while, but it feels like maybe they're shifting their focus a little bit.
On my deathbed, I swear to God, I'm so afraid that the last thing that will ever happen before I depart this earth is someone's going to say Cy-Fair, and all I'm going to hear is somebody going, McGuffey!
That is a reasonable response to that.
The greatest video that was ever put on the internet. McGuffey!
I don't even think it exists anymore,
I don't think you can find it anymore. No.
That's so sad. That was so great.
That's the first time that's got to be the first organized internet YouTube troll.
Yeah. And the worst part was trying to interview the guy knowing that existed and not like A, chuckle to yourself, or B, find some really jerk way to ask him about it. Because
you could tell
Sam
he hated
was wired
it, right?
kind of tight.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't the guy that could laugh it off. Like that would have pissed him off for sure.
And I'm sorry for those of you that don't know what we're talking about.
I'm going to duck and cover here, but supposedly we're 9 days away from the Sooner Summit. Mm-hmm. Is this petering out, or is this actually going to go down?
I'm starting to think it's going to happen. I want to give credit where it's due. I have seen and read an article for Brandon Huffman of 24/7 Sports, a guy that does a great job on the West Coast. I mean, I know people always want to believe like rivals and 24/7 hate each other. It's not like guys who do good work. We give them credit. And he has spoken to Emeka Egbuka, the 5-star wide receiver, and has reported. And Egbuka told him he is planning to be in Norman for the summit on the 21st. So that is massive news. And Oklahoma is the only school he hasn't visited. I think he is a smart kid that knows he's probably never going to get to take official visits. Like I think he understands that. That visit feels like this is OU's chance. Like he's going to go down there. He's going to see what the campus is, and it sucks for OU that they don't have the same leg up that the other schools did to show him around and host him and let him meet the coaches and do all that stuff. But OU's done incredible work, led by Dennis Simmons, Lincoln Riley. They've really done a lot to get themselves in the race here. If that visit goes well, I could absolutely see him picking Oklahoma and maybe doing it before terribly long, because at some point, what are you waiting for? Like, if you know what you need to know, you've got the information you need to have, like, at some point, you feel like a guy like that might pull the trigger. So we'll see. I think Ohio State's still clearly the leader. There's a lot to, kind of unpack with him. But if he makes that trip, like I said, I think Oklahoma's got as good a shot as anybody.
And we'll just open it to everybody. What do you think about the recruiting impact of the Big Ten and Pac-12?
It's honestly, it's a kind of an angle that I hadn't even really thought about, because I guess going back to the Big Ten decision, I thought that they were going to just kind of buy themselves some time and not cancel. But the more you think about it, and I think the Tunmi decommitment was a little bit of a, I don't know, coincidence at that time, or maybe it wasn't. If the three powers that be play this year, Big 12, SEC, ACC, these schools in the Big Ten are literally going to be digging out of that hole created for years to come. Ohio State probably be okay. Michigan State, somebody like that, just get ready. It could change the face of college football recruiting forever. And I say that, and I know that's quite a statement, but I think it could be massive change coming ahead.
You know, OU has always been able to go out to the West Coast with the sales pitch of, yeah, we're a football factory. Why wouldn't you want to come to a football factory instead of being out here where they don't take it seriously? You've never been able to sell the Pac-12 doesn't take football seriously more than you have now. I mean, USC is always going to be USC. Oregon's going to get their guys, but UCLA should probably never get another kid. Well, Chip Kelly's there. He's kind of doing that now.
He's negative recruiting for himself.
Well, heck, Josh, let's talk about Bryce Foster with Oregon making its charge.
Yeah,
you think that changes anything?
It's interesting. I mean, like, you have to think that as a kid from you've got to feel like with being an A&M type of guy, he's gonna gravitate a little bit to the conferences that are playing ball, that are taking this, that are trying to find a way to get on the field this fall. Now, whether that's fair or not, I mean, you can argue about that all day, but I've got to think with certain kids, it's going to go both ways, because there's some kids are going to see that as, well, the Pac-12 and Big Ten, that they're trying to keep me safe, and there's other kids that are going to say, man, I just want to play football. Like, I don't want to think about this all the time. I don't want to worry about my season not being right and what this could mean. So I can see it going both ways. Knowing Texas kids as well as I do, having covered them for 20 years, I'm going to bet most gravitate toward the ACC, Big 12, SEC model more than the other way around, just because, they're products of their environment and their families and all these things that are, let's be honest, are not groups that are saying this is a huge deal, we need to shut down college football.
Eddie, go ahead, Bob.
There's a couple things, of course, we don't know right now. We don't know about the scholarship eligibility issues that come with postponing the fall season, and we don't know if mid-year enrollees can play in a proposed spring season. So that's a couple things that might change the dynamics going forward, but that's something we just don't know.
Even though Ryan Day's advocating that they can and that they will remain freshmen through the next year.
Is he really?
I believe that's something he said today, yeah. Which, if you're playing an 8-game season or whatever. By the way, do you guys really, just curious, do you think a spring can actually happen?
No. This kind of goes back to my thing about, if we're doing this for player safety, which the Big Ten and the Pac-12, that's what they're standing behind, I don't understand how you can expect to have guys play 20 games in the matter of 9 months. It doesn't add up to me.
I get the only way is if you're not going to the spring, but you're going to the winter. If you start in January, maybe. But if you try to start like a March traditional springtime practice thing, then there's no way in hell you're going to be able to pull that off. But I've just seen speculation like starting the first week of January, and maybe you try that. But man, those temperatures in the Big Ten cities.
Bob, as well as anybody, kind of being from up in that area, but everybody wants to be outside in Madison, Wisconsin in January practicing football, or Ann Arbor, or Chicago, wherever. I mean, it's just, I almost feel like it's a slap in the face to the fans, the coaches, and the players. And not to mention the Big Ten didn't even start talking about a spring season. They have no plan for one until, what was it, like Tuesday night or Monday night? I mean, it doesn't add up to me.
If we're talking about still battling these same issues a year from now, what's going to change in January? Like, how is the virus environment going to be so different to where the Pac-12 and the Big Ten can say, okay, now we can play?
Sure.
It's still going to be pretty much the same, right?
Exactly. It's punting to punt, and I like that. Just say you're probably not going to do it, like, because that's what it's going to come down to. There's nothing that's going to discernibly change enough.
It's the go ask your mom. It's the go ask your mom level of decision making.
Exactly. And I mean, I use that a lot, so that's fine. I mean, I'm not here to judge. Actually, I'm definitely judging, but still.
See, I brought it all back together.
I'm just ruining 2 lives. So.
Yeah, I can't see that it's going to happen. I mean, which is going to be more infuriating even for Ryan Day. And I could just see teams. And here's the other thing: the conferences might say, "Okay, you're clear to play." I could see a lot of schools saying, "Yeah, we're just not going to do it. We can't make it happen."
Guys, what do you think of the talk of these, like Nebraska threatening, like, "Oh, we're going to play somebody," and then everybody's like, "Oh, the conferences and the money, they'll never allow that happen." Are you telling me Fox wouldn't be all over the idea of like a super conference, like Ohio State, Texas, Georgia, Alabama playing each other every week? Like, what are we talking about?
But there's the problem.
Of course they would.
The Big 12 is not going to screw up their grant of rights and their money to help out Nebraska. Now, if Nebraska wants to come into the Big 12 and get a piece of their pie, a small piece, they'll probably be willing to do it. But that's the thing. Like, who's Nebraska going to play on the contract for the Big Ten? The Big Ten's not going to allow that. You're going to make a separate contract just for a year?
Yes. Do it. Make that money.
I don't know how that works, but it doesn't seem like it'd be easy.
I agree with that part for sure.
All right.
But I don't have to do the fine points, so I get to say these things.
We've gone on for a while today. Anybody else? Any order of business that you want to bring up before we get out of here, fellas?
I'll just say I have a pretty big 2021 basketball recruiting class update coming. I'm thinking probably closer to Friday now than tomorrow after everything that's happened. But
and if you haven't seen
great
it,
event.
Go to the website. Bob went out to the Team Griffin showcase. Is that?
Yeah,
what
I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, that was sensational. I mean, I really thought glorified scrimmages. It'd be a bunch of dunks and lobs, but it was competitive. It was streamed nationwide to where, like, college coaches were trying to get in touch with kids, like, right after their scrimmages to let them know they wanted to offer. It was sensational. It was the first Team Griffin event they were able to do since March, and those kids really made the most of it.
And I know, like, Taylor's real. I mean, like, he pretty much runs that whole thing, right? And Blake was there a little bit.
Yeah, Blake showed up for the championship and spoke to the guys after. But that entire coaching staff that they've got going, that was such a well-run, efficient event that just couldn't have gone any better. And when we're talking 2021, that's Damian Collins, the borderline 5-star prospect from Atlanta, Texas. That's Trey Alexander, a Rivals 100 kid from Heritage Hall. And Collins, even after talking to him, I get a feeling still OU or Texas maybe leaning a little toward the Horns now. The one thing, I think he has finally accepted that he's not going to be able to make any visits, and he's just going to have to make a decision. And I think for some, even, football kids, that's been a tough thing to really come to grips with. You're not going to make those trips that everyone before you got to do, where I think Trey Alexander still is holding out hope that he can make some more visits. So I think he'll take a lot longer to make his call, and I think the longer he waits, the less likely it is that he's a Sooner, where with Collins, that OU Texas battle, that could come to a head at any day now.
All right, good stuff. You can go to the website, check that out, full report, lots of pictures from the event, and really appreciate that. And the high school stuff going to be cranking up as well. And just want to let you guys know, appreciate you, always being a part of the Sooner Scoop. If you're not a subscriber, come check us out. We got football, we got practice, getting ready to ramp back up. So should be, look, we haven't had any access, and there's been great information for a month now. I mean, we've been on top of, all the injuries at camp. Obviously, the Big 12 Board of Regents deciding to bring back or allow football to happen. So the door is wide open. We are exhaling a little bit. We all feel like we might have jobs after all. So that's good news. But it's really because of your support that we're able to do all the things that we're able to do. And the more people that sign up, the more stuff we can do. So I think if you look at our history, we've proven we love to invest back into the site and give you guys a bigger, better experience each and every year. And COVID certainly put a little damper on that, but even though we don't know if we're going to be in press boxes or whatever, we're definitely going to be bringing you full coverage of the season as it happens in whatever form or fashion that it happens in. So appreciate you guys. Hope you'll be a part of it at Soonerscoop.com. Thanks for listening. Thanks to Josh, to Eddie, to Bob, and we'll see you guys back here again next week on another edition of the Unofficial 40 Podcast from Soonerscoop.com.